Hello, this is Dan the Furniture Repairman. Today we're going to show you how to repair this veneer damage. Customer brought in this piece. They tried to do it themselves and they sanded through the veneer to the layer underneath it. And this is very common if you're refinishing, even if you have experience refinishing. Veneer is very thin. It's very easy to sand through. Now what we're going to use is a blend all powder. The color is Universal Walnut. It's from Mohawk products, and we're going to show you how to use it. And rather than re-veneer this piece in 10-15 minutes, we're going to do a little cosmetic touch-up, and it will basically be acceptable, all disappear, and we'll be able to fix it. Now, here you see my palette. I use paper plates, and I'm going to put a little denatured alcohol. That's what's in that little pill cup. I'm just going to get a little of the blend all powder on my brush. I like that fan brush right there. I tried a different color. They make a ton of different colors, and this was one that was a good match. And I'm just double checking it. Now, what I'm doing is I'm brushing with the existing grain lines of the piece I want to mimic. So the piece I'm covering, the grain lines go right to left, but the piece that got burned through, the grain lines go up and down, and then it has some striations that go left to right. So we're going to mimic those in. And what we're going to do is just kind of add and build our color in small amounts. And we're not going to try to paint out the whole area. What we're going to do is, what you want to do is use a fan brush, and you want to streak your colors in. Now, if you don't have a fan brush, I mean, you just buy one online, or you can just use a regular brush, use the edges. Or in days gone by, I would just take a brush and cut out some of the bristles and then make my own fan brush. So I'm going to just brush it in like this, and you can see I'm heavy on my color, which is fine, because what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to add a little bit more of it thinned out, and then I'm going to start to move it around with my brush. Now, as long as it's wet with denatured alcohol on my brush, it's going to allow me to manipulate that color and push it around and thin it out. And, I start out a little heavy, and then I tend to thin it out. And depending on what the next stage is, I may come up a little light or a little dark. Now, in the beginning, I always want to try to half my work. I want to take whatever I have to do and cut it in half. So I'm never trying to get to the color in one shot. I want to get halfway there, put my sealer on it, and see. So this is a sealer you can use, a Mohawk product. Now, we work in a shop, so we make up our own cans of sealer, and we'll do a video on this product in coming weeks. And we're just going to spray sealer on just like this. Now, we're completely refinishing this piece, but before we get to refinishing, we have to clean up this damage right here. So you can see the lines now are traveling up and down a little bit more, and I'm testing to see if my varnish is dry or my sealer is dry. Use the back of your hand. Don't touch it with your fingerprints. That'll print it. Just kind of move your hand lightly and bring it a little closer, and you'll feel if it's sticky or not. If it's sticky, give it a little more time. If not, you should be able to get to your next layer. Now, the color underneath isn't going to move around anymore because it's locked in with the sealer. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to apply too much color at once, or it will absorb into the sealer. But sometimes it takes a couple days to absorb in. It doesn't happen right away. So be generous with your clear coats. Make sure it really swallows up all of that color. Even if it looks like it swallowed it up, add a little bit more. And over the top of this, we're going to put coats of varnish also. So we're going to put a lot of clear on top. So you can see I'm not painting this perfectly. I'm kind of just skipping and missing and streaking in color and spots so that I create hot spots, light spots. I want to mimic the way grain looks. Grain is your dark areas of the grain and your light areas of the sapwood, and we're trying to mimic that. Now, this piece has a double look to it because it has the striations that go right to left along with the grain lines that go up and down. And you can see I'm turning my fan brush on its side here. And find a brush you're comfortable with. I mean, brushes are cheap. You could probably buy a pack of them for, 10, 12 bucks. You don't need anything too fancy. You need a big brush, a little brush, a fan brush, a couple brushes, and then play around with them and find something that works for you. What works for me might not work for you. It's all going to depend on your hands and your eyes and what you're comfortable with. And you can see right here, I'm just going very gently, just adding a little bit color in certain spots. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, dip it right into my denatured alcohol, and then move it a little more. And now I'm just going to fan this down And the reason why I like using denatured alcohol as opposed to shellac or sealer, which you can use with these powders too, is that right here at this point, I can dry the powder off. All the denatured is going to be out of it, and then it'll be dry. And what I'll be able to do is um, take my hands and move that powder around a little bit more and kind of feather it in. So I feel like I'm good here. Here I go, another coat of sealer. Excellent. And then we're going to take another look at where we're at. So where we want to be is we want to be closer to the finished product, not farther away. And there's a little bit of white in the sealer that needs to dry out. But you can see how the grain lines are traveling up and down, the light and dark. We're looking more and more like, normal wood that's copying the wood that's next to it. And it's a smooth transition. The eye will hopefully accept it. Now, next thing I need to do is mimic these little striations right here. I think they're called vesicles, or a lot of different names for them, that are going side to side, and it's what makes this piece of the wood so beautiful. So what I'm going to use to do that is, again, a Mohawk powder, and I'm going to use golden oak. And the reason I'm going to use golden oak is there's no red in it. It's more of a greenish yellow, and it's not going to combine with the red in the universal walnut. Now, the walnut's a funny color for Mohawk. It is a reddish walnut, not a greenish walnut. So you got to try out your different colors. But, after a while, trial and error, scrap pieces, even on the piece. You can put colors on the piece. If they don't look right, just take some denatured alcohol and back it off. Now, what I'm going to do is just kind of slowly, just very lightly touch this. And I apologize for the video going in and out of focus. I'm a much better finisher than I am videographer, but I think you can see what I'm doing. Very light, just eyelash touches. And I'm just going to brush in these little bits of dots here and there. And believe it or not, as light as they look, if I coat them with sealer now, they will stand out as heavy as being painted on. And I don't want that. I want this looking natural. So I'm going to mute them down. I'm going to back them off again with my brush with a little bit of denatured alcohol on there. Now, don't be afraid to try this stuff. It's not hard. I'm not an artist. I couldn't draw a stick man with a ruler and a T-square, but this stuff I can do. And the reason why I can do this stuff is I'm pretty good at figuring out how to do things. I just say, color, you got 15 colors. Just try all 15 colors and look at which one is closest. And if I'm not sure, then I ask somebody's opinion. So here I come back. I just have my denatured alcohol on a brush. And what I'm doing is just reactivating that powder that's on there, dried, and I'm moving it around a little. Now, the bulk of it's going to stay in the area where I painted it on, but the top part is going to move left and right and up and down with the denatured, and it's going to lighten up that area. And then some big, bold strokes. And again, apologies for going in and out of focus. This drives you nuts sometimes. We'll make sure we correct it in future videos. But that's it. And I paint on my color, and then I use my denatured to manipulate it to get it to the point I'm happy with. And if I'm not happy with it, I don't spray it with sealer. I just take a rag with denatured on it and I just brush it back off. And now what I'm going to do is just tiny bits of color right here. And I'm just going to kind of brush in some little bit more on the edge right there. And you can see I'm just kind of coming in and landing a little bit here and there, kind of creating a transition that I like. And when I spread the sealer on, it's going to look like the color it does when it's wet, not when it's dry like this. So here I come back. I'm going to fan it just like this. The fanning just helps the denatured alcohol dry and speeds up the process. You don't want to spray your sealer on with the denatured wet. Now I'm going to take my fingers, and this is what I was talking about before. I'm going to manipulate around these edges and feather them out. As I feather them out, it's going to give me a lighter transition from the existing work into the touch-up work. So you don't want a hard line between the two. You want to be able to just gradually go from one to the other, and then the eye will accept it. And here I come back with sealer. Now, after the sealer, I have to spray varnish on this. A couple coats of varnish, but I'm going to be refinishing this whole piece. So I'll do that in the spray booth. But here we are. This is what we're looking at. We look pretty damn close right here. As it dries, I think that it'll be okay. And on the right, you can see what we started with. So all in all, don't let this stuff scare you. Give it a shot. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. You got to re-veneer the piece. But more often than not, I think you'll find an acceptable solution. Thanks so much for watching. This is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Remember, every time we restore a piece, it doesn't go in the landfill, and less trees are getting cut down to build new ones. Those are both good things. If you have any questions, comments, want to call me a shoemaker, tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, that's all fine. I can handle that. Put it in the comments below. Uh, Take your time with this stuff. Don't be afraid of it. I'm sure you're capable of it. If I can do it, I'm positive you can do it. You all have a good day now.